When you understand the concept that there's no destination in life, your growth has infinite potential. Imagine being under the roof of wisdom, body-mind connection, and transformation all in one. Take that in for a moment. I've had the honor to know Kristen Mangione, creative director of ZenSpace Studio, for many years now, and her transformation has been incredible. It's such an honor to be with you today. It's been the 12th year of ZenSpace Studio, and she's a gem of a woman that's really, really walking her talk. It's such an honor to be with you today.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. What was your first experience, your first body-mind experience, and how did it shape ZenSpace?
My first body-mind experience was about 14 years ago. I had a dance company at the time, and I was actually looking for what I thought at the time was going to be a better day job. And one of the dancers in my company, she was studying this practice called shiatsu, and I didn't know anything about it. I just thought it was going to be, a massage or something of that nature. And what it actually turned out to be was my first experience in really body-mind connection. And the way that I knew that had happened was up until that moment I had been, somebody living a really 24/7 life. I walked around with my to-do list like in front of me constantly. And pretty much what life looked like was every single second was about checking things off on my to-do list.
It's all about doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing that shifted for me was I had this session with my friend. Her name was Francesca. And I remember as soon as I opened my eyes after the session, it was the first moment in probably years that I knew that list was somewhere in my bag, and I really didn't care. It was like this immediate shift of suddenly I had this freedom in life that had been missing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It was a turning point.
Yeah, that one experience really had you tap into that. Yeah,
for sure. And immediately that was when I knew that this is what I needed to do.
We love that.
In a way, yeah, that was the genesis right there. It was solely based in having that much of a shift in my experience that was all I needed to know. And the rest was a big leap of faith.
Wow. Yeah. And even after that, because when you first launched the studio, it was called Zen Touch.
Correct.
So even being in the turning point, you still had another turning point. So how did Zen Touch evolve into ZenSpace?
So Zen Touch was originally my private shiatsu practice, which I had for a good almost 10 years, where it was my solo practice as a shiatsu practitioner, and basically worked with people one-on-one. And what happened was, through some recommendations, I was actually working with a coach at the time. She said, why don't you look at, renting to some other associated teachers, yoga teachers, meditation, who can basically just help you with passive income, rent the space when you're not using it. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I met a woman who is now a dear friend of mine, who she really had a point of view of being a business woman. And she said, it makes no sense. Like, why don't you build basically more people who actually can be a part of your business and share the profit with them in terms of all the work you're already doing, supporting them. And it was in that moment that we restructured the entire business model, rebranded, and literally changed the name, and it became ZenSpace.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's almost like it started with you and your practice, and then it expanded beyond yourself.
Absolutely.
And it became the space for people to
Yeah.
evolve and transform.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that moment it was, I saw that there's a limit in which anything that starts as a personal phenomenon can grow. And then there's this thing about scalability, that it has to be bigger than you in order to really grow and be in the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're also a mesmerizing dancer.
Thank you.
I've seen you dance. She's amazing. And we've had conversation about being versatile as a dancer or actor or anything, and having that skill opens up opportunity and optimize our talent and our skills and everything that we're going to tackle. So can you tell us about an experience, because you offer different classes in the center. Right. Can you tell us about a student experience where tapping into different practices actually transformed their lives and had them create breakthroughs in their lives?
Absolutely. There's a student in particular I think about that she originally came to us as a participant in our yoga classes. So she, like many, that's actually quite typical of a lot of the people who first discover ZenSpace and come to practice here, is that, yoga is, I consider it's one of the pillars of what we offer. And, she was that was her primary practice. That was all she did, which was great, for a good 6 or 8 months. And then I was having a conversation with her. It was right around the time that she actually had a shoulder injury, frozen shoulder, which, can be quite debilitating in terms of pain and range of motion. And we were talking, and I just happened to share with her about this other class I teach, which is called floor bar technique. It's a ballet bar class on the floor.
That's awesome.
Which basically it works with gravity instead of against it. And what happens is your whole skeleton gets realigned. So you get to work about lengthening so that at the end of the class you stand up and you actually feel taller.
I've experienced it, so that I did feel that.
Yeah. So it's and the really amazing thing that came out of us talking was, because her shoulder was injured and at that time yoga wasn't appropriate for what she could do and getting better, she ended up coming into my floor bar class because she didn't have to use that shoulder. And then instantly she became a floor bar devotee. She just found herself and had no dance experience, which the amazing thing about this class is it actually requires no dance experience. That's the beautiful part of it. And she would have these experiences of learning all this stuff about her body and how to use it that she wouldn't have otherwise found. And then in addition to that, there was something, and I think this was a function of just, she was already here for a yoga class on Saturday mornings. And one day she decided to stay for my meditation class, which is right after it, just as a function of she had time, or she made time. And she went, I didn't think that I could actually do a meditation class.
Wow.
And the way that we structure it, it has verbally guided meditations. I call it's meditation for people who don't want to sit still. So she had the experience of, by focusing on specific things in her body, she could learn to channel her mind. And so, it's really incredible that she's somebody who, her experience is what I want for so many people here, which is that you find and locate yourself not only in one place, but you get to surprise yourself and discover all these other things in the palette that actually can enrich your experience.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And that's what you say about with dance, that's always been my experience and philosophy. It's you constantly expand your palette, and that adds to it. The diversity adds richness as opposed to diluting. And that's really the philosophy behind how we're structured here.
That's awesome. And it's almost what I heard when you were sharing her story, and thank you for sharing that, is that she found a place where she could start because she couldn't do yoga. And it seems that the practices you're offering, it's all could be a starting point for somebody.
Absolutely.
So what are the offerings? What are the type of classes that you offer?
So we have yoga. We have meditation, which is all the verbally guided types of classes, where it's really about focusing on your body so that you can learn to quiet the mind. We also have the floor bar classes, which is, it takes classical ballet principles, but by bringing it to the floor, it's appropriate for anybody with any experience, from absolutely no dance experience to people who maybe took classes as kids and want to get back into it. We also do, my personal favorite,
we have to have one.
Yes, we do adult modern jazz classes, which these are the classes that I started when I was a preteen, and I lead them. It's called Simonson Modern Jazz, and it's my favorite because...
And she's smiling a
I'm
lot.
smiling a lot. People get to discover themselves as dancers, even though they have this idea walking in that they don't know themselves as that. They walk out with that, and it's the best thing ever.
I love when there's practices like that, you know, the whole meaning of I'm not a dancer, I'm not an artist, I'm not everything, and then you bring it into them. You're like, you know what, I am a dancer.
Yeah, there's someone, you know, when you talk about breakthroughs in students, there's another dancer, there's another student who literally, she says that all the time. She says, I'm a dancer now, thanks to you, and floor bar, and now modern jazz, and she's actually doing the floor bar teacher certification this summer.
Wow.
In New York City, which, you know, she's been an athlete all of her life, and in adult life to discover that is, you know, she's had such a transformative experience that now she's compelled to share with other people. And it's like, you know, that was something I could have not foreseen was going to happen. It was like miraculous. And it's just beautiful to see how it's continuing.
Yeah. It's so beautiful how we're devoted, you know, to each other. How people can transform and experience that, and it's not even like our primary intention. And it's interesting. I'm curious to know, like, why are you so committed to offer people an extraordinary quality of life?
Well, I think part of it is, you know, in my own personal experience, there's two things. One is being willing to invest oneself with your time, commitment. You know, this idea that there, you know, real lasting change doesn't all of a sudden just like there's no quick fix.
Yeah.
And there's, I think that we've been conditioned to kind of expect, because we live in such an instant gratification society with technology, and there's so much that's immediately available, which is a blessing, absolutely. And then there's this other side to it, which is where in my experience at least, the biggest, most profound shifts have come as a result of really being willing to put myself into something. For example, like a practice of studying shiatsu, you know, that was a pretty big commitment, and has had one of the biggest impacts on my life. You know, I was really willing to put myself into it. And so I personally, because that's something that I've experienced, I can see and speak for the value of it. And so I can say with authenticity to people coming in here, it's not to say that somebody who comes in and takes a class isn't going to get value. It's not that at all, because they will. I mean, we're very, you know, we're grounded and we stand behind what we do. There's also a promise that you're actually going to get more out of what you put in. And so, and I can see that so consistently that, you know, and it's like, you know, when you're fully in, when you fully put yourself in, it's like the universe responds and you get back that much more. Serendipity, you know, and things just move.
Yeah.
So I can say that, you know, the people who have really, and they don't know, you know, that's the cool thing, is like there's this little bit of like the unknown of, I don't know what I'm going to discover. I don't know where this is taking me, but I know that I'm ready to really initiate some kind of serious change in the quality of my life. And that's consistently where we see our customers have their breakthroughs.
And it takes courage to do that.
Oh my God.
And like you said, the students really get something out of their first experience.
Oh, for sure.
And it's really through practicing that they're going to discover what's next. Because we can feel good. It's like when we go to any empowerment event and we're like, woohoo, rah, 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 I'm happy. And then the effect lasts a week. Why?
Maybe
it's 2 days. It depends, like, how's your day to day. But it's really in practicing and keeping grounded and keep coming and keep showing up. At a certain point, then the habit's going to develop. Then your new self's going to emerge.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's literally, you know, if you take the scientific approach about neuroplasticity in the brain, practice is really rewiring all your neural connections. About, you know, there's been studies about statistically in a human being brains, like how much we're actually hardwired from negativity and safety. right? And it's great. I mean, in terms of it has a usefulness about keeping us safe because there's this fundamental human protection to survive. Now, fortunately, we live in a very evolved world where for many of us, survival, thankfully, is more of a foundational given. So then it becomes like, well, if we're safe, what's possible? Wow. Yeah.
That's a really huge place to start from.
Yeah. It is. Completely.
And we don't think about it this way.
Yeah. And that's really that's one of the things for me that what ZenSpace is about. And why we see so many people come in who know that they want to make a change, because thankfully certain foundational things are given, but then it's like, but now what? Now what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also have a retreat in the Catskills.
We do.
That you do once a year.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, how does it enhance the ZenSpace experience? Because they have all the foundation as a practice, and then they have a retreat that it can have access to.
I would say there's Maslow, who wrote a lot about human psychology.
We like him.
Yes. And he has this theory about what he calls peak experiences.
Peak experience.
Yes, peak experiences, which are, again, it's this idea of, if you think of a pyramid, and at the basic fundamental level of human experience is this foundational level of survival. Are my basic needs met, right? And it also, a parallel to this is in the Indian Ayurvedic system, what's called the chakras. Basic fundamental energy, developmental things. Children, for example, we go through this stage of, am I safe, am I not safe, am I taken care of? And then there's, as you ascend up the pyramid, it gets into things like feeling satisfied, your drive, your willpower, and then at some point, where it stops because you're fully taken care of, you're fully actualized as an adult, you have what you need. So then it stops being about you and it starts being about, who am I in the world and who am I for other human beings? And so Maslow's theory about peak experiences is that when it stops being about you in terms of consciousness, awareness, there's a heightening of awareness and how you can be in the world and with other people. That is another level, and it's not to diminish any of the other stuff, because that's, you know,
it's important.
It's your foundation. Literally, if you have a pyramid that has no bottom, it
doesn't work.
There's no stability.
Right.
So what the retreat is about is it's about giving people the opportunity to have a peak experience. Now, what I mean by that
what do you mean by that?
Yes, this is where it builds onto ZenSpace, is that a lot of what happens here, we talked about that people really get to discover things about, I can quiet my mind, I can sit still, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Wow. Well, if you have that here, you go to our retreat and you discover, oh my God, I can sit for 30 minutes. I can be in what's called jihatsu meals, in the ritual meals in silence, and be challenged to do all the beautiful choreography with the bowls and pay attention and maybe not get it perfectly, but have this new experience that I didn't think I could actually do, and I do it. And there's an opportunity to begin to know yourself as somebody who can do things you didn't think you could do. In one of the most pristine, to my estimation, one of the most beautiful, peaceful spots on the planet. On top of a mountain, on a lake, in a building that looks like, was modeled after the temples in Kyoto, Japan.
It's gorgeous. I've been there. Obviously.
So it's an opportunity to really step out onto the skinny branches and fly.
What I hear too is like, it's having the peak experience is being in service of ourselves and our soul, but also others. Because being in that space, like, you are drowned to help each other. It's almost in these jiatsu bowls. This is a kind of really cool experience. But we look out for each other. It's not about being perfect. It's really about the experience and being in a community.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. So it's so, it creates you're pointing to something really, I think, profound in terms of as much as we're with other people in our day-to-day life, like this is an opportunity to feel connected with and related to people in a very profound way that we don't always get to because our day-to-day life is often so busy or isolated or whatever that it's an element that I would assert is always accessible but often missing.
That's so true.
Yeah.
What would be one tip that you would give to someone that wants to start a body-mind connection practice or that's been doing it for years and years?
Okay. I would say for somebody new, two things. Notice what you're drawn to. So, for example, if you're in conversation with somebody and you notice that something comes up that piques your ear, your interest, like somebody's talking about, there's this thing I hear Reiki. It sounds really interesting. And it's just kind of, and you don't know what it is, but it just kind of piques your interest. That, I would assert, is a sign that there's something there for you to discover.
I like that.
Yeah, so if something kind of shows up and it piques your curiosity, be willing to notice that, pay attention to it, and then just Google it. Because the chances are, if we either offer it here or there's another place that does. And two, do it now. Because often there's this phenomenon of someday I'm going to do that.
Yes. We've said that a lot.
Yes.
Someday.
And the reality is someday is actually a fantasy. Someday does not come. Life is a moment by moment phenomenon. And, I have, people in my life that they've heard about the Zendo. I've been talking about it since I went the first time 14 years ago. And
it's a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see, and it's not to diminish, there's always circumstances and things we deal with. But here's the thing, if there's, if you really like something kind of piques your interest, it's about the being willing to deal with whatever circumstances you need to do it. And it could be something as simple as like sign up for the class. Even especially if you're like, I don't know. And we have things like our Intro to Yoga series specifically for that. We have a structure specially designed for that, like, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Right.
Yes. And that's why it exists. It's like, this is actually the bridge. 5 weeks, once a week, from the very beginning, specifically to give you the confidence to be able to do that thing you think you can't do. Now, for somebody who has a practice, this is something from Zen, which is called beginner's mind. Which, so beginner's mind is to be willing to throw everything you think you know about something out the window or put it aside as you step into it. So how that could look is when you go into your next practice, the little voice is there's a part of you that's going to go like, I know what this is, I know how it's going to go, I know how to do it.
We're all guilty of that.
And we all have that.
Yeah.
We all have that. Notice it and just let it be. And then consider, what if I did this like I'd never done it before? And then just see what happens.
Yeah.
It's and it's very interesting when you give up consciously and deliberately the I already know. As you go into an experience, can something else become possible?
It's very true. When you come from a beginner's place and you experience something that you've done before that you know how it's going to go, and you're like, all right, I'm just going to be in there. You're still a different person, because the first time we do anything, we have one experience. The second time we do the same thing over again, then our perception evolve in a different way, and then we hear different things. It's just fascinating. That's a really good tip.
Yeah, because I think there's a certain thing about, in some way we inhibit the dimension of our experience. We kind of limit in a way with this I already know. And not that it's a bad thing, because
Right.
what comes with that, of course, the great thing is confidence and being self-assured and willingness and more freedom often.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another piece to it too, which is like, what if it's just safe to just inquire and put aside, so maybe there's something else to discover.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything else you'd like to add?
Just that I think what you pointed to about courage, that in having had the opportunity to have this conversation with you and share this information, is that I so appreciate and acknowledge the amount of courage that it requires to step into something, whether new or seemingly known, and then shifting one's perspective on it, because it's not, it's not often the way that we operate.
No, it's not.
And with circumstances and making a real shift, because one of the things I see in the people who often participate here is there's often a catalyst where there's a hunger for change, like deep lasting change.
Mm-hmm.
And having that as part of my experience as well, I get it. It takes something, and so I so honor that, and I just want to say that because it's a testament to how incredible we are as human beings.
Oh yeah. We're so resilient and malleable and flexible.
Yeah.
And it's important to develop that muscle, and you have the structure here to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's so great to be with you today.
Absolute pleasure.
To find out more about Kristen and ZenSpace Studio, please visit ZenSpaceStudios.com and come and say hello.